Stay Alive, a 2006 horror movie based on the concept of a survival horror game that if you play it, you will end up... Yeah, YouTube guidelines can't say that word, but you get the concept. It's basically The Ring that if you watch the tape, you will end up... Again, can't say the word because YouTube. But in a video game sense, where if you play the game with somebody or if you play it on your own, the ghost of the game will come to you in the real world, hunt you down, and one more time for YouTube, can't say that word. Now, despite what some people think, I actually really like this movie because as someone who plays a lot of horror games on my main channel, I love horror like since I was a kid. I've played the Resident Evil games, Silent Hill games, even up to new games like Five Nights at Freddy's and Bendy and the Ink Machine. The 2000s was a weird cacophony of strange and wonderful ideas. Movies like Ghost Ship, Descent, Dog Soldiers, House of Wax, My Bloody Valentine, and probably 100 more. The 2000s horror era is actually one of my favourite eras of horror, and I think what also lent into this movie really well was around that time so many good survival horror games had been made, and they kind of lean into that and reference some of them in the movie. And I'm actually sad that this movie hasn't had a retelling or a remake or even a sequel to it. But regardless of that, I am going to make fun of this movie and make jokes. So our film begins with a jump scare. Ooh, gotcha. There is like some jump scares throughout this movie, but they're not that bad. But yeah, they had to get you in there, didn't they? We then get a bird's eye view shot swooping in through the main gate, looking like a House of the Dead remake from the old arcade games. Which also I found out the other day, there's not just one, but 2 House of the Dead movies that actually exist. I've never seen them, but I actually want to get them for my film collection. And I won't lie, to be honest, some of the graphics in this look better than a lot of games that we have now. I think looking at this game, there is some clear, obvious references. Like, I think the mansion looks like a Resident Evil sort of knockoff, but almost paying homage to it as well from the first game. Then go into a first-person POV shot holding a lantern, similar to Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which I think wasn't even made when this game came out. I'm not gonna lie, looking at some of these cinematics actually still looks good for 2006. This was pre so many of the 2010 horror game boom that we got, and this still looks amazing. But like a lot of games on Steam, the trailers is always the best bit. The game, on the other hand, meh. I think this kind of has like vibes of Alone in the Dark and other games similar to that era. So, you know, we get some more gameplay, some elements of horror, and then, oh my god, and we got things climbing on the walls, and we got, oh my god, we're surrounded. Now we're in a saw trap. This is some Silent Hill references, and no, Jesus! Game over! And then boom, smash cut into the real world. We were playing a video game the entire time, and this is our friend Loomis. I feel like if they wanted to make a sequel to this, they'd have to do some sort of like Let's Player, influencer, streamer who's playing like a demo version of this game that no one has ever played before. And then maybe he's playing in his free time doing a Let's Play series, and then the game basically hunts him and his friends down. That would be if we made Stay Alive 2, which maybe I could do a concept video on. If you guys want me to do a concept video on Stay Alive 2, the sequel, I'll do that. So Loomis gets a bit scared and calls his best friend Hutch.
Play this new game called Stay Alive.
Seriously, man, sick as shit since Fatal Frame.
Obligatory name drop of game insert here. And you can tell how scared Loomis is, because he's like, you wanna come around and play PlayStation?
You gonna make it over here? Can you come over? You wanna come over?
As much as Hutch would love to come around and play PlayStation with him, he gently declines and says he will come up at the weekend, leaving Loomis freaked out, paranoid of the game he just played, much like some of my best friends when playing Phasmophobia. So Loomis gets more and more paranoid and hears a noise upstairs. He goes full horror character and goes to check it out, which is something you should never do. That's the equivalent of hearing something and going, hello? He reaches for the door. He sees some PG-13 lovemaking, so you know those guys, they're gone. Also, the guy's wearing a pig mask, and I was just like, is that a reference to Saw? I don't think it was, but at the same time, I can't exactly dispute it. But it looks like if Piglet was on some hardcore drugs. So Loomis goes to bed that night after seeing his housemate play naked wrestling with the lady friend of the group, and starts to have nightmares of the game that he just played. He wakes up from those nightmares and, shock, the lights aren't working. Another tick for classic horror movie cliche there. So what does he carry? He carries a lighter, because this was before the time where everyone had a smartphone and everyone had a torch attached to it. One thing I noticed while watching this as well was the place is already quite well lit, so as he's walking around with a lighter, there is so much you can already see. I don't think he needs a lighter. It's not that dark. So Loomis goes downstairs, as anyone would during the nightmare, to go get a nice, cold, refreshing glass of milk. But he hears something, turns around to do a double take, and he sees Black Riders. What I love is he throws the milk and it hits the camera lens, but I also love the fact that he's like throwing the milk at the intruder like that's gonna do something. His first response was, "Have some lactose, you." He sprints upstairs to get help from his friends, only to find out, turns out his friends have run out of lives and they ain't respawning. A chain wraps around Loomis's neck and pulls him off the banister, replicating the way he died in the game.
Coincidence? I think not!
And then we get a title card. Sorry, I watch a lot of Dead Meat and I've always wanted to do that. I also know these guys have reviewed this on the podcast, but I would love a stay alive kill count. So if that would be something we can do, that'd be awesome. We then meet up with Loomis's friend Hutch, who we met earlier. I think the one thing I like about how Hutch is painted as a main protagonist is the fact that he is a gamer, but he works a corporate job. He has a life as a gamer and his outside life. And as someone who's in a job full time, it is hard to play games with your friends or have that space to be a gamer. And everyone these days is a gamer. He isn't like a quote-unquote nerd. He's a handsome dude who works a corporate job and is just trying to live two lives of working a normal job and playing games with his friends on the side. Basically a full-grown gaming adult, but he isn't painted as a loser. Hutch is called to his boss's office, thinking he's in trouble for some work he didn't do. But turns out all his boss wants from him is gaming knowledge.
Now the walkthrough says I dumped the ammo and the boss dies.
The boss is played by Adam Goldberg, and as much as people probably know him from Taken, Saving Private Ryan, and so many other projects, for me personally, he will always be this psycho. Hutch gets a phone call about the devastating news of his friend Loomis, and then we smash cut to the funeral, which is something that's always kind of like bothered me, because if he had passed away, say, the start of the week, and he says to Hutch, "I'll see you this weekend," that means there's been probably a week, maybe less than a week since he's passed away, and then we're suddenly at his funeral, unless some time has passed between then, and they've set up the whole funeral thing. It's just a massive jump as, oh, by the way, your friend, yeah, he's not coming back. And then you're at his funeral instantly. It's like they fast traveled to his funeral. It's always something that's like kind of bothered me. Hutch attends a funeral and then has his picture taken by someone who looks surprisingly familiar. Don't tell me, don't tell me, don't tell me. Come on, it's coming to me, it's coming to me, it's coming to me. No, I lost it. There's also a subtle reference to the fact she's holding a camera, which is similar to the camera in Fatal Frame / Project Zero, which Loomis name dropped earlier on in the movie. Another thing I want to comment on is that Hutch actually looks like a video game character, but so does the other girl. She looks like so many horror game protagonists. It's unreal. I don't know if the filmmakers were intentionally doing that, trying to base her off games like Silent Hill, Resident Evil 4, and so many other games. She just looks like a typical survivor horror protagonist. I think maybe that's something they tried to do. Anyway, to speed the plot along, Loomis's sister comes along and gives Hutch a bag of Loomis's stuff, which has the plot device in it which we need to progress.
You don't want this?
Well, Mom and Dad won't let me play those video games. They're gonna toss them, they're too violent. Besides, he would want you to have them.
A-class top tier acting then. We then cut to some sort of gothic coffee shop gaming bar, which it takes me with such nostalgia that gaming zones used to be a thing where you would go in, spend a little bit of money, and you could rent a PC and play some games on a PC for a few hours or for about an hour. Those were some of the best times of my life, and I'm so sad that I don't see any of these anymore. It literally is a time capsule of what gaming was like in the 2000s. We then meet Hutch's girlfriend October, because of course a girl who is a goth has the name October. Was Wednesday and Mortem not taken? And her annoying little brother Finn, who is by far the worst character in this movie. I genuinely, when you lose him as a character, I couldn't care less. While Hutch is mourning his friend Loomis while talking to his amazing girlfriend October, Finn decides to just rummage through his bag, because, he's that sort of guy, and finds the demo for Stay Alive. But Finn, being that one horror character in the movie, was like, hey, you know what we should do? This was the game he was playing before he passed away. We should play that game. We should play that game as a way to honor Loomis, which basically is a way of saying, I want to play this game because a guy died playing it, which again, he is the scumbag in this friend group that when he is later killed off in the movie, I didn't really care. I was like, you know what? He is the catalyst for this happening in the first place. If Finn wasn't there, I think Hutch would be perfectly fine not playing the game that his friend was playing the night before he died. but we all need a catalyst in a horror movie. But for some genius reason, Hutch agrees and invites them round for a LAN party. And again, LAN parties are such a time capsule moment in gaming history that when I used to do it, that was some of my favourite time in the world, was doing LAN parties. It shows how old I am, but I honestly loved those moments. Not playing games online, playing games in the same room with your boys, having a gaming night, pizza, Pepsi, music, and just messing around playing Halo 2, Halo 3. There was so many good moments. And the final character of our roster, Swink, played by Frankie Muniz, aka Malcolm in the Middle, aka Agent Cody Banks. And if you guys don't know anything about this actor, I'd say stop this video and just Google the mad life that this guy has had, because it's actually mad to see him in a horror movie. And for some reason, Hutch invites Abigail around, you know, the girl who was taking pictures of him at a funeral. He just decides, hey, you're cute, invite her around. Obviously, October takes a dislike to her instantly, but to be fair, I think she was just a bit more concerned of who's this blonde girl you've invited around. One thing I've always trying to figure out about this movie is how are they playing this game together? You've got these 5 guys here, and then his boss back at the office, but they only have 1 disc. So my theory was, did they burn a bunch of other discs so they could play it? Or are they hosting it on some sort of server with the files? I didn't really figure that out, but if someone could explain to me how 6 people, especially one in a different area, is playing a game back in probably early 2006, I'd appreciate it. They get to a screen that has the Prayer of Elizabeth written on it. Please don't read the prayer. So they all do the one thing you're not supposed to do, which is read the prayer, which allows them to progress into the game, which I think this is where the curse of the game starts. I guess if they didn't read the prayer and just took the disc out and just, you know, destroyed it, like that would be it. Like the game would not be able to progress anymore. I think the prayer is the thing that ignites the curse to start. We then get to a character customization screen and then have a sweeping cinematic of the game about to start, where it tells you the basics, but also tells you the most important thing, which is
stay alive.
The game then turns into a first-person shooter all of a sudden, which confused me rewatching this, considering that Loomis had a lantern. Unless it's a class-based game, but that's what confused me the most, was why was Loomis walking around with a lantern when someone's got a crossbow and pistols and Loomis is walking around with a lantern? Like, no wonder he died. We also get a useful tip in the game where if you throw a rose in front of an enemy, if you can't damage them, it dispels or dispels them from your area. We then get into the gameplay, and Finn is just that one guy in every friend group that I'll let him just explain himself.
Left! God damn it, you noob!
Hutch's boss Miller is then separated from the party, which I also think was planned by the ghost itself. He finds a basement and obviously goes into it because, you know, survival horror game. Hutch also finds a secret passage in the way of a glowing wardrobe, but unfortunately we ain't going to Narnia. And then we get somewhat of a lore dump with the name of the woman in the red dress, Countess Elizabeth Bethany, which is actually based off a real-life historical figure, by the way, and an alleged serial killer. We then cut back to Miller, who unfortunately has ran out of roses, but has found some sort of torture chamber in the area. But before he can get out, he is attacked and stabbed with shears in the neck, and that's him done. After we lose Hutch's boss, the guys decide to come off for the night. I also realised something rewatching this. Hutch's boss is playing this game on his work's computer at work, which is absolutely insane that his boss doesn't have a setup at home. He's playing it on his work computer. That's another thing that's baffling to me. How is something that can probably barely run Microsoft Excel is playing a game like that? But unfortunately, Hutch's boss isn't in the office alone. I'm starting to see a pattern here. Paranoid and freaked out, Miller decides to leave. But unfortunately for him, as Hutch comes to the office, turns out Miller is Miller Lite on life. Found dead in his office, stabbed in the neck with a pair of shears, though they don't ever actually show it, so I imagine it would be the equivalent of safety scissors. Finn, still playing the game, finds Miller's body in the area where he died in the game. Hutch, being the smart one of the group, finds it weird that people playing the game die the same way they do in the game in real life, and his suggestion is just not to play it. But Finn, the charming one of the group, basically wants to keep playing the game and just says everyone is being paranoid, but doesn't say it in the most polite way because he's got the people skills of a brick.
If you want to curl up in the fetal position for the rest of the day, that's fine, but don't expect me to. And as for you, I just met you like goddamn yesterday, so kiss my ass. Finn! What?
While all of Hutch's good friends go to console him over the deaths of two of the people he cares about, Finn continues to play the game and finds out the Countess has a weakness. She doesn't like mirrors. I'm pretty sure that won't show up at any point in the future. Finn's character is almost mowed down by a carriage and then hears the noise of horses neighing in the distance. Hutch, still worried about Phineas, even if he is a piece of shit, decides to go back and check on him because the concern for him is growing stronger. As the Scooby Gang run back to go check on Phineas, only to find out that he's fine. We got a good old horror movie fake out where he's ripping a fat bong. Finn tells the group about what he found out in the game, that silver can still reflect even if mirrors are broken. Finn just tells everybody they're being paranoid and tells them to move on, which for some reason in the movie they do. They show the guys just working and doing stuff in their free time. We also find out that Hutch survived a house fire as a kid and I think was adopted by Loomis's parents, which is why these guys were so close. But I'm pretty sure his fear of fire has nothing to do with the future plot of the movie, right? Hutch then goes to his work computer and decides to Google the deaths of his friends, which I'm pretty sure, again, I don't know how lax they are or security at this place, but for some reason they just let you Google anything you want, and if that was any other job, you'd probably be fired for that. October also does some research on Countess Elizabeth Bethany, finding out she is a real person and every detail of the game is copied from direct references to her real life.
The last thing she said was that one day she'd be back.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your...
We then cut to Phineas, who's jamming out to an absolute rock ballad, when all of a sudden it starts to get really dark and really spooky. He thinks he sees something on the road and swerves directly into a tree in a very nice car, which again, another question, how does this guy have that much money? I don't think I've ever seen him do any actual work, so how are these guys paying for this cafe goth gaming club they've got? And I only ever see October do any actual work. Finn decides to get out of the car and call Hutch, believing what Hutch said earlier about being hunted down in real life by the game itself, but for some reason just decides to walk up and down on a main road and not get back in his car and drive off. Hutch explains to Finn you haven't died in the game, so you shouldn't have to worry about dying in real life, right? Well... Nope, he gone. The guys pull up to where Finn last called from, only to find his corpse. Hutch calls the two detectives from earlier and explains that the game is the culprit for these murders of all his friends, although the detectives suspect that Hutch is the one behind the killings. I mean, to be fair, he kind of looks like a nice, younger, handsome Dexter, if I'm not mistaken. The other douchebag detective decides, oh, I'll play the game that he says is cursed, because there's always that one person that's always like, oh, you're telling me not to do something? I'm going to do it more. The detective plays the game for like a solid 30 seconds before he is killed, which I don't even think it was enough time to start the game, make a character, read the prayer, and then get into the mansion. So this guy is speedrunning a death run here. Hutch confronts the cop and yells at him for playing the game, despite his warnings not to play it. October then blames Hutch for bringing the game into their lives, which I kinda get, but at the same time, like I said earlier in this video, if Finn would have had some self-respect or some respect for the dead, he wouldn't be rummaging around in a dead person's belongings trying to find some sweet loot. The reason they actually played the game in the first place was because Finn went rummaging around for the game. I think Hutch personally probably would have just put that game in storage or wouldn't have played it because it would have freaked him out playing the game that his friend played the night before he died. I also think if Hutch did play it, he probably would play it on his own and he would be the only one who would have died. Although another theory would be if Hutch played it and died, Finn would have grabbed hold of it and died as well because it's Finn. So regardless, I think Finn was going to die. Anyway, October, now determined to find a way to beat the game, wants Hutch to go find the game developers who made this toxic game. I'm going to say, who's she going to call? EA? The detective from before tries to find information about the game as well, in a store which could only be described as an old school Blockbuster or Game Station, or for your Americans, GameStop, which is still around, but I don't think game shops are the same as what they were when we were kids. Like, I still have fond memories of my dad taking me to Blockbuster every Friday and picking a game off the shelf and only having Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to complete the entire game. And that for me was nostalgia. My dad would buy a box set or a couple of movies. Friday, Saturday night he'd have a movie. Sunday night he would just chill out, and I would have a game that I would be determined to beat in 3 days, and I would make those 3 days count. I don't think that sort of nostalgia exists anymore because no one rents games anymore. With the cop upset that his Blockbuster video card doesn't work anymore, he is killed inside his car, but we don't actually get to see it. We then get some more backstory about Hutch's upbringing. Basically, he survived a house fire and was adopted by Loomis's parents later on in his life. The guys break into Loomis's house to try and figure out any details about the game, as he was a QA tester on this game. The guys then find an address of where the game developers are located. October then lets the guys know they need to find her body and put a nail through her heart, neck, and head, and then burn her to cleanse her soul and spirit. They then see the detective's death is on the news. The cops show up at Hutch's apartment where October and Swink currently are. Hutch tells them to escape and avoid the police. Hutch remembers something that October said about a spirit being activated by the proper text. Hutch then figures out that the prayer they all said at the start of the game was the thing that ignited its spirit to come to life. Abigail then figures out that the game is on by itself and also playing itself, meaning the ghost is cheating to get its victims. That is why Finn was killed before. He wasn't actually playing the game when he was in the car. The game was still being played by the ghost off screen, manipulating that world and taking Finn with it. But unfortunately, it's not Swink in the game they're talking about, it's October. The weird thing is, this is where the game and the real world start to collide and clash. We see October walking out outside having a cigarette, and the game is still being played in the game world, with her avatar still walking around. This is where it starts to blur the line between the two worlds coming together. And as usual, the guys rush off and try to save her, but we all know how that's gonna go, don't we? October enters a construction site, hearing the noise. October arms herself with a nail gun and sees the spirit of Countess, hoping to put the nails in her heart, neck, and head. Unfortunately, the ghost was in passive mode like in GTA, and the nails go straight through her, which leaves October with a chain around her ankles and then inserting a stock audio scream of her being dragged away. By the time Hutch arrives, it's already too late, and October has run out of lives and she isn't coming back. Hutch is finally done with all his friends dying throughout the movie and decides to go and confront the developers of this twisted game. And then for some reason, in all this massacre of what's happening to Hutch's friends, Abigail just decides to tell him that she's homeless because she made up this whole elaborate lie about her family. Not really relevant to the situation, Abigail, but cheers for the share. The guys arrive at the location and it looks, somewhat familiar. They hatch a plan for Swink to stay behind and monitor the game to keep the spirit distracted, while Abigail and Hutch go inside the location to try and find an answer to what is going on with this game. So this is where the movie and the game take a weird turn, where Hutch and Abigail are exploring the plantation in real life, but Swink is exploring the plantation in the gaming world. But the two are linked, almost like we're living in the same world, in a digital version and a real life version. Actions that Swink does in the gaming world affect the real world, which is a very weird concept, but also somehow works. And they do that by showing shots of the interior and showing Swink's character go into a room that Abigail's already been into. Meanwhile, Hutch and Swink find the graveyard, which was shown earlier on in the movie, leaving Abigail in the house by herself, completely unprotected. But she finds the wardrobe, which they also found earlier in the game, which leads to a secret passage. Abigail then finds a room littered with drawings, pieces of paper, and random religious figures. And the one thing I can't figure out after years of watching this movie is how the hell was this game made? Like, literally, was it made by a bunch of cultist programmers who just summoned some sort of demon? Or did the ghost itself learn programming? I would just love to see the Countess just sat there learning C++, trying to make like a basic game, and she basically spent eons making a game and making it onto a platform. I would just love to see the Countess just typing away one night, just doing lines of code, just like, yeah. Or like I say, could it have been a cult, and who had the idea to summon it? Like, it's just never explained entirely how this game was made, but it just leaves a lot of weird ideas in the air of how it was made. Abigail actually finds out that the Countess was a murderer and keeps a list of all the girls she murdered in a little book. But just as she finds all this out, the room goes dark. She is trapped with the ghost. Hutch, realizing that Abigail is in trouble, runs over to the house with the assistance of Swink, using his video game character as reference, trying to figure out a way to get to her. Hutch finds a trapdoor but is unable to open it as there is a padlock blocking it. But then Swink drops a crowbar in the game. But at this point, it makes it sound like the worlds actually are collided and anything you do in the game can affect real life, but it works both ways. It's almost like a critical flaw that the ghost, when designing this game, left it in so the players could also manipulate this world that she had created. I think what's funny about this is that Swink's guiding Hutch to go and save Abigail, but it's almost like he is controlling him as well. Like he's controlling his character in the game, but he's controlling where Hutch has to go to get to Abigail the fastest way, almost like doing a walkthrough or a playthrough, using his friend as a second playable character. And all the while, Abigail's just having a great time, being harassed by bugs and being haunted by ghosts. Another locked door, Swink opens it with a key, suddenly it works. Hutch can't get to Abigail in time, but Swink's avatar can, and throws roses onto the floor, casting away the two girls and the Countess, who were torturing Abigail. Hutch and Abigail embrace in a kiss, which makes Hutch seem like a scumbag considering his girlfriend literally just died probably hours ago, and the guy's already moving on. And she's a goth, she's going to find a way to get back and haunt his ass. The fact that his girlfriend died hours prior to this, and he's already getting freaky with someone else, I was like, that's kind of a dick move, Hutch. Just as we think everyone is safe, the Countess targets Swink by locking the van doors and playing his game for him, leading his character into certain death. However, just in time, Swink manages to move the controller so his character moves out of the way of the oncoming carriage. He breaks into the van and continues to play his game. However, at this point, she screen looks and decides she's taking this into the real world and breaking her own rules just to get rid of Swink.
Bitch, that's cheating! I'm not dead yet!
Freaked out by this, Swink runs away in hopes that she can't catch him. However, he does the typical horror movie thing of falling on a small branch and falls into a rose bush. And then we cut to a game over screen of Swink's body lying dead on the ground. Determined now more than ever, the guys grab the 3 nails, a bunch of roses, and head towards the tower where her body lies. It's literally setting it up like it's a final boss, like all your friends have died and you guys are going to take on the final boss together. However, as they've grabbed all the key items they need to finish the final section of the game, the Countess isn't playing around and puts the difficulty up to hardcore mode and separates Hutch and Abigail from interfering anymore. We actually see for the first time Hutch use a rose to actually get rid of a ghost. It's actually pretty cool that the rules of the game apply in real life as well. Doing that allows Hutch to get back to Abigail and they open up a crypt, the same crypt that Miller found earlier on in the movie. However, the Countess isn't making it easy for them and making them use up all their roses so they can get to the final resting place. It's actually funny to figure out how close Miller actually was to finding her in the game. And this is something else I'd like to figure out. If they could kill her in the game, would she die in real life if the two are linked? It's just one of those things where does the line stop blurring? They are then chased by some CGI ghost girl spirits, which me then realising was the victims that the Countess had killed prior, which she only seemed to target little girls, which are now the minions that she uses to hunt down and kill the players of this game. And the CGI kind of looks as well as it did in 2006, to be honest. Escaping with their lives from the ghost children, all they need to do now is head up to the top of the tower, find her body and burn her corpse. But again, one more dirty trick, separating Abigail and Hutch one final time, which means Hutch has to go fight the final boss alone. Hopefully he's at max level for this. The guys shed a tearful farewell and Hutch goes on alone. Maybe his princess is in another castle? Hutch gives her some final roses to defend herself against the ghost children. He heads up and finds the corpse of the Countess lying there, almost in perfect porcelain, pristine condition, even though she is hundreds of years old at this point. He drives the nails into the corpse, but then the evil video game spirit is attacking Abigail downstairs from where Hutch is. As she's about to kill Abigail, Hutch drives the final nail into her forehead and her ghost disappears. And that's it, right? Boss defeated, game over, credits roll, you know, you unlock the good ending. Nope, turns out this is doing an Undertaker impression and leans up behind Hutch and staring at Hutch. She then pushes the nails that Hutch had drived into her corpse out of her body. And now somehow the corpse, not the spirit, not the video game spirit, the corpse of the Countess is now animated and awake, which then again for the last time I'm saying this, I don't know where the line blurs. She's corporeal in 2 different worlds. She can inhabit the video game world, but also use that spirit in the real world, but also have her corpse move around as well. But Hutch remembers something. She doesn't like mirrors, but Hutch doesn't have a mirror hander. He has a super reflective, top of the line, reflective, shiny, brand new Alienware laptop, which he somehow uses as a mirror to scare her into seeing her own reflection. He then uses his lighter to light the fuel on the ground to send that up in smoke. I told you his fear of fire was going to come up at some point, but at least he got over it now because, you know, I don't think anything says getting over your fear of fire like lighting up some demon bitch. However, despite the fact he has defeated the Countess in a blaze of glory, the door is locked and he can't get out, mimicking what happened to him when he was a kid and he escaped a fire. That's right, Swink wasn't actually dead. Because he was protected in a rose bush, he used it as a way to protect himself against the spirit. Though she killed the body of him in the game, she wasn't successful at doing it in real life. Which again, kind of seems like an oversight, but meh. The free escape while the tower burns to the ground. And that's it, right? Game over, credits roll, you've unlocked the good ending, right? Nope. Nope. One last thing happens. We cut to the video game store, where the video game clerk from earlier opens a box, and inside the box is a PS2 copy of the Stay Alive game, which the gaming clerk then puts into a PS2 and loads on the screen. And the final shot of the movie is a zoomed in screen where we see that the ghost of the Countess is still very much alive and well, which made me think, is she a bit like Voldemort in the sense that she has split her soul into discs of the game? Or did they need one disc which she then mass produced? Again, I don't know who she's contacting to get this mass produced. She doesn't seem to have any employees, she doesn't seem to have any sort of followers, but for some reason she has a video game studio, a legit business which would have to file to get this game printed and made. There's just so many weird little things on how this game would somehow be published and then mass produced and then sold. And then my brain was like, well, where's the profit going for this game? Who's it going towards? The ghost isn't going to need it. And my brain just thinks like this about these stupid ideas of like, who coded the game, who designed the game, who made the game. We don't see any cultists, so who's profiting off this? You know, where's that profit go to? Because horror games are a massive genre. So where's that money going? Like, again, these are the things I think about. But anyway, guys, that was Stay Alive. As much as I like try and poke holes in the story and make fun of it and make my stupid corny jokes, I actually really love this movie. I don't think there's any other movie like it. Don't get me wrong, there's video game adaptations like the Silent Hill movies, the Five Nights at Freddy's movies. Obviously, I've done concept videos about making things into other things. So I would love another movie like Stay Alive. And like I said, if you guys want me to do a Stay Alive 2 with a more modern era, up-to-date one, I would love to do that. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please take care of yourselves. If you guys have got any recommendations, any movies I should like make fun of or review and stuff like that, let me know in the comments down below. But until then, take care of yourselves and goodbye.